Welcome back to RP1 Release, and yes, in between the episodes, I've flown our other pilot up into the sky and taken those two missions that we got. So if you have a look in the archives, it's going to be right on the bottom. Pass the carbon line crewed and break the sound barrier crewed. Both of those were actually done. We have another one here called suborbital flight. We only get 1 year to do it, but we already have a craft capable of doing that. We're going to get another 28 grand for doing it. I'm not going to do it on camera, but just so that you have that available, I'm going to be able to take that, I think. Now, that's brought us back up to 183 grand, and our launch pad is now done. It's because I couldn't fly that second mission until the launch pad was upgraded. So now you'll see this is upgraded to 60 tons. The next upgrade is 150 grand. That'll take us up to 150 tons, but 60 tons should let us get a, well, an orbit capable craft, shall we say, up into the sky. Right, so we then have to also look at the tech that got upgraded. Do I have any points? No, I don't have any points. But we unlocked 2 nodes. We unlocked the basic rocketry that has, more importantly, the RD103 and the AJ10-27. So the ultimate ARB and the pretty much the next to top RD100 engine. Also, we unlocked early material science. Just both of these were while, well, pretty much one of them was while the launch pad was being upgraded. This one, importantly, has Tank 2 in it. So if you have a look on the description there, it basically ups the utilization to 92%. The high pressure version can hold standing rocket payloads, so you could replace our original science little short thing with a Tank 2. It will go further, but also you can put the payload in the bottom section if you wanted to and fill up the rest with fuel. Interesting idea. We'll see. It costs 10 grand, but it is definitely worthwhile, and Tank 3 is even better. And then we've got a bunch of other stuff that came with it as well. And these are the pre-built tanks that we may not need, although this one, for instance, is a service module. And that probably means we can put various different things in it, and we could even replace that little tank we used underneath the our crewed first launch pod. So yeah, we can have a look at a bunch of different stuff here. But before we do that, we should take a look at what the performance differences of those engine upgrades are. Let's head into the VAB and see where we go. So we're going to start with the short 1 SRP, sounding rocket payload, and I'm going to empty this tank of the sounding payload. It's going to be empty entirely, so then we get an idea of what this rocket is capable of. And the other rockets are all based on this same bottom stage, so we can just take a look. This happens to be just one of the simpler ones. It doesn't have any of the science in the top. So by default, our vacuum, vac delta V, is 3,423 meters per second. Takeoff thrust weight ratio at sea level is 2.12 and it goes up to 2.33. Fair enough. But we're going to just basically see what the upgrade costs. So it's going to cost us another 7,000 funds, but I think I want it. And the 3423 goes up to 3619. Let's just empty the tanks and then refill them, just in case that it requires a different mix. So 3619, I should say. It's pretty good. We can change the tank type to a tank 2. So 3619, let's take a look. So tank 1 HP, that's tank 1. No, I'm going to actually need to, that does mean I may have to retool things. 1.5 meter by 10 meter. We know what the size is, so let's go and get one of those. Oh, in fact, I should be able to select it. Yeah, let me just put that back. Oh, I hope I can. I just need to buy the tank. That's that's the important first stage. Down at the bottom, tank 2, another 10 grand, gone. Now can I actually select it over here and change it to tank 2? No, still a tank 1. Okay. 1.5 by 10 meters it is. So let's just get it 1.5 by 10. Okay. And I'm just going to need to put that back down to the bottom for a second, just to grab a few things like this, like these, and then we can throw that away. Put everything else back. That's roughly right. Yeah, looks about right. And then that is already the RD103. It is RD103. And we just need to fill this up. So let's fill it back up. Okay. 4378 meters per second. That seems to be worthwhile the upgrade. It really does. Let's actually change this back to its original color, which was the Whack Corporal color. And then I think that's pretty much it for this case. Let's bring that sending rocket payload back up so we can save it in exactly the same state that we had it in. And that's down to 4310. But otherwise it's fine. So if we want to save this stage, we can just make a sub-assembly and be able to use it on others. So we want to just grab. I just want to grab the tank and lower. So sub-assembly drop zone. Okay, so Osprey 2 for tank 2. First stage. And this can be renamed to 2. Okay, and that's done. Of course, we can fly this. We can see how well it goes. But before I actually do that, what I want to probably take a look at is sort of the endurance of something larger. So why don't we take a look at the larger version of this that we did originally, the 2-stage rocket. That was I think the Osprey 1 originally, before I started making changes. So let's take a look at you, and let's see what you actually are available for. In fact, let me just go back to that one in a second. The Osprey 2, I just want to just double check something. 3.8. So I'm going to need to retool that tank to make it much cheaper. Good. So I don't need to reload that. And then, of course, we've got this, which is sort of our original Araby. And then we can now upgrade that. So our stage that we're going to look for is stage 0. So 22, 32. And if we change the engine, we should be able to go up to the AJ10. Okay, and that may require different fuel. Let's remove the tanks and line, I think. So that's less, but it may have a better thrust to weight ratio. I didn't check the thrust to weight ratio. That's 4.07 eventually. Let's just load that back again. Osprey 1. Yeah, that's a much higher thrust to weight ratio. Slightly less delta V, but yeah. So we may have to, well, first of all, it also has different characteristics. For example, it's now going to be able to fire for longer periods of time. Which means we can take a look at, let me just reload. No, in fact, no, let's actually do it with this one, because we do need to do this one anyway. And let's take a look at what amount of delta V total we can get. So if we upgrade this to our RD103, in fact, I don't even need to do that, do I? Because I've got everything prepared. We can just take you off, go to our sub-assemblies, grab an Osprey 2. Okay, it needs resizing, but we'll sort out the resizing in a little while, because we now need to check the engines now. So if I've replaced both of those, you with an AJ10, AJ10, now I've reloaded it, and you're definitely still a 103, are you? Yep. Now we need to check their endurance. So the Araby, we want to check the AJ10-27 version. And that has a rated burn time of 70 seconds. Right now, it will only be going for 35 seconds. So it's capable of going much, much, much longer than this is. And in fact, it's double. So technically, I guess you could just double this propellant tank. I'm not sure that's a wise idea, but it is certainly possible. That seems to be awfully tempting fate to have such a long stage at the top. But you could do that. So we definitely can change that first stage, and I'll go and build something and bring it back on camera later. The RD103, on the other hand, should be much better as well. Where are we? RD, there we are. So let's take a look at this. So the RD103 rated burn time is 130 seconds versus what we've had previously, which was the 101 and 102, 85, 83. So yes, 2 minutes 10 seconds burn time, and we've got 1 minute 18 here and a thrust rate ratio of 258. So what we really need is actually a different first stage. We need to redesign these upper stages to cope with the capabilities of each of the new engines, which means new craft time. So here's a trial at a 3-stage rocket. Now this is quite early on to be going into this detail, but well, in fact, there's technically 4 stages, but yeah, we're going to go back on that for a second. At the very top, we've got an aerobee top stage here, and well, we have a science module. We probably don't need the science module. We can make it lighter by removing it. However, below that, we have an aerojet solid rocket booster. This is like the Tiny Tim, but a little bit bigger, a little bit better performance. It's basically the lightest upper stage I can actually think of with the most delta V. It has 759, and you'll see we've just been fueling up here. We'll come to that in a second. Below that, we've got inside this this fairing, we've got a typical aerobee, but with the AJ10-27 engine on it. That's our second stage. Third stage is down here, the typical one that we've already been building. Basically, is now got the RD103, and if you like, the fourth stage after that are 2 boosters. To make them boosters and not just basically have the same fuel, I want to make it so that these 2 detach and come away, i.e. they run out of fuel just before this main stage. So what I've really done is just reduce the utilization of these 2 tanks on either side, just to give them that little bit of disengagement, so we don't end up crashing everything once we need to start taking stuff off. So let's engage the autopilot. Let's see if or how this thing actually flies. I have had problems with MechJeb before. I had to restart the entire game to get it to actually, hopefully now, fly again. Let's see how well this goes. So, engines are on. And yep, we're on vertical ascent mode. So it is actually working. What happens, or what I've had happen, is for some reason it says pre-launch even when everything takes off. All these stats are frozen. This stuff isn't, but the delta V stats are frozen, and the throttle doesn't throttle up to 100%. No idea what causes it, but when it does happen, just restart your game. In that case, it works just fine. You'll see these 2 side boosters have got slightly lower fuel. We don't have fuel ducts, and in real life there is no fuel ducts to move stuff. Well, very rare cases there are fuel ducts, but not usually are there fuel ducts. So we have just 3 separate tanks. And let's just get rid of the fuel display now, and let's see how well this goes. So yeah, there is a lot of stages on here to actually get us up towards orbit, or at least as far towards orbit as we can get. We're going to have probably a much better result as far as how far away from the space center we go. However, we will see how well this actually goes in practice. So here comes the first stage separation shortly. I'm going to skip ahead. So with about 10 seconds on the clock left, where this is coming into horizontal. That's MechJeb doing that work. So here it comes. Engines are going to go out. Separation. We got 4 separation motors on there doing that work. It will work even without the separation motors. It just makes sure that they clear entirely. And as far as where they're placed just above the hydraulic manifold that pushes them away. So now you can see this is coming onto horizontal. It's probably not going to get quite horizontal by the time it disengages, but we'll see. Yeah, there it is. I'm going to disengage and let's go straight away. So that's 1 spin up, 2 some ullage, and 3 the main engine. That's burning and spinning. Now whether this thing will stay on point or whether it will start to wobble, you see it's already starting to wobble a little bit. That can and will get worse, so just bear in mind. And then the top stage is just a solid rocket and a separator, so there's really not much we need to actually do once it gets to that stage. We're now using up our remaining fuel. This will not last very long at all. It's got 49 seconds. Our APO is quite high, and our periapsis is coming up at a rate of knots, but well, a rate of kilometers. But yeah, we probably won't get to orbit, but this probably should be a good suborbital craft. We need a bit more technology really to basically make this even more efficient. But I thought I'd show you the general approach for your sort of first orbital rocket. You want it the lightest possible top stage you can, then build down from that. Take a look at obviously what the engine maximum can perform and have a play around with that, and then keep on building below that until you get to a bottom stage that probably won't launch very well. So that bottom stage can end up being quite low thrust to weight ratio. Depends what you actually decide to do with it. In this case, that wobble is quite pronounced. So we're going to just wait till this burns out, and then we are going, well, not going to be able to time this, but we are going to be able to stage. So let's see how well this goes. So off that goes. 2, 1, out. So we're not in orbit. You can tell because our periaxis height is negative, but we're not far away. Minus 2.8 is not bad. And if you have a look around, you'll see we are most of the way there. This last part actually expands out quite quickly. Once you get to under 1, in fact under 1.5, it starts to actually change really quite quickly. So again, we're not far away, probably either missing some efficiency on the rocket design or, you know, some playing around with some higher technologies. Of course, we have got a bunch of other stuff ready to be able to do that. So one thing I will note is that you can get, let's just close this for a second. You can get a distance record or a speed record of over 5 kilometers per second. However, that won't cover the launch cost of this rocket. The launch cost is quite high without tooling, and because I'd almost consider wanting to tech up before we actually do this, then maybe. But I will leave it up to you guys. I'm sure you may well want to make suggestions about improvements that we might make to this. We could try and make these different size tanks. The only reason I've used the same size tanks here is largely that if we did tool them, all these three would cost the same low cost, because we'd get the advantage of tooling almost immediately by comparison to flying them lots separately. However, we don't actually need any of those external stages to basically save this as something else, because now we have a single rocket. That single rocket by itself has got 5.7 plus another 800 or so. Yeah, give it or give or take. So about 6,500 delta V. So when we actually fly another sounding rocket, solo, SRP, or well, we won't do an SRP, but solo, save that. You can actually potentially use this to get more distance records. Now, our sounding rocket payloads, let's see what we actually have for missions. Do we have any more missions to get really far out? Because that's certainly something that this rocket can actually do. So let's go into the mission control. Sounding rocket altitude, yeah, so we would have to reach 1,200 kilometers. And that's quite straightforward, I would imagine. And we get 7 grand for it. So we could use one of the other rockets, the cheaper ones, single stage ones, and see how well they actually do for that. Then there's of course sounding rockets by themselves, but again, the amount we get for them is actually quite low. And then suborbital flight crewed is probably the most lucrative one we could actually get to. It doesn't say that we need a particular crew member. What I don't know is whether we can send up, because NetJet's flying, because it's not the actual pilot that's flying, I don't know whether we can just send up a scientist or engineer. That would be interesting to see whether they can actually do that. Yeah, we have 1 year to try. So we could build more than one. Yeah, why don't we actually go for that? I'm going to start on building before I actually accept the mission. And we'll just use, well, maybe we should modify that one that we already made last episode. No, we don't want it to come in too fast, so it's fine just to continue using the same one, because it got to, I think it was around 200 kilometers. It was just short of 200 kilometers. And if that's the case, then just sending it up again will actually do that mission, which will get us another, however much it was, 28 grand or whatever it was. So yeah, science, so Osprey manned. There it is. So yeah, quite a cheap rocket. This is still tank 1. So we could make it much better, but if we did, we'd probably go much higher and then be coming in much faster on the way in. So I'm just going to add one of these to our build queue, and that will do for the future. Do we have any new technology coming up though? Let's take a look at that. No, it's all quite far away. We actually definitely want this orbital rocketry node that has a lot of new rockets, which enables much more mature upper stages and longer upper stages. They can go for minutes and minutes and minutes without any problems. They won't be quite as good in terms of the thrust to weight ratio, but that's not a problem, because you can sort of go past your apoapsis and then aim up slightly as you're coming back down towards the atmosphere, and it'll average out. It's a slightly more efficient way of getting it into orbit. In any case, we're going to let's have a look. I was going to just have a look at this. So yes, our courses for the X1, and we can have a look at proficiency. We've got both of our pilots have got proficiency for it. What we could do is, just to extend these retirement dates, we could send both of these guys on this course. Is that the course? Yep, they're both on it, and that'll take them 45 days or so. And we have the mission here, which would take 93 days, so we should be safe to accept this suborbital flight, I think. Yep, so that's another 14 grand we've got, and a 14 grand for completion. What I don't know is if we can just send up an engineer or a scientist without a pilot, because MechJeb can fly it, but that's actually worth finding out. So I'm going to skip forwards, and let's see. Once we get a little bit closer, you need to assign them to the mission training, which is again in here. This one, the mission one. We need to do that for the pilots anyway because it expires, but the engineer and the scientist will need to do that as well once they've finished their current course. Okay, now will it let me select them? Launch. Terry Holt, engineer. We could remove him and add... yeah, we can add either one. So let's turn our engineer up. Hopefully. And here's Terry Holt in his little seat inside. We can take a look from the inside and take a look at the ground. Yeah, sort of. Yep. And let's see whether they will take off just fine. Let's have a look. So we've engaged the autopilot. Yep. And let's get going. Engines on. Separation. And that seems to work just fine. So, yep, Terry is on his way out of the atmosphere and hopefully able to fulfill this mission to get us a suborbital flight, reach 180,000 meters, and return home safely, of course. Yeah, that's just a side effect. Let's see if we do it. And that should work just fine. We're heading up out of the atmosphere here, and that should mean we get to our particular suborbital flight, 180,000 meters. So here it comes. We're at 195 APO, so we should be more than comfortable. There it goes, and all we have to do is return home safely, which I guess is the easier part of this. And as normal, we'll drop into the atmosphere, and you'll see everything start to realign itself as the air comes in and makes everything good for Terry. And of course, Terry's just fine. We did get a little bit more science. We did get a bit of recovery, but not a huge amount. And Terry's ready for his next assignment, but he's going to have a bit of a holiday for 11 days. Yep, there he goes. And that remains that we have our scientists left to go up to basically extend their retirement date. However, do we get basically another one? Yeah, you continue to get at least this mission 3 times. I think you get each of them 3 times potentially. So you can use that to get more credits, and you probably should. So in this case, we're going to have a duration of 1 year. So we do exactly the same thing again. And I'm not going to show that on camera, of course. So we've already seen it. We then really have this huge mission that has a duration of 2 years, and you have to get a satellite going for there with a periapsis above 150,000. Huge amounts of money, but it's a lot easier to do this if you wait, if you're not trying to rush to get that orbital rocketry node. So if you have a look at the orbital rocketry node, it is over here. It's 383 days, i.e. a year, and that's probably better for you actually to wait for that one. However, between the episodes, I'm going to take that other suborbital mission. I'm going to get our 4th astronaut up and running with some experience. And then we're going to fast forward for next episode. I'm not going to worry about actually building that 3-stage rocket. That's just the demonstrator. I think we can do a much better job with a different rocket design once we get to this orbital rocketry node. Anyway, I'll see you then for that next episode. This is going to be a little bit shorter than normal, just because I had an episode yesterday that was quite a bit longer than normal the day before. So yeah, just trying to keep things in balance, about half an hour. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Some discussions of different designs. I'm sure you'll all be wanting to comment below, which is the most important part, about what you've seen and what you think should be improved. Otherwise, give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, click on the bell for notifications, and we'll see you next time for some more RP1 release. Thanks for watching.